Welcome to an episode of InRange. I'm coming to you today with the new Smith Wesson Model 10. And it's weird to call it new because this gun has essentially been manufactured by Smith Wesson since 1889. However, they have brought this version of it back to the market in its historical incarnation with the half-moon front sight, pencil barrel, beautiful bluing, square butt, and have gotten rid of the horrific, very unpopular safety screw lock thing that was put into these guns for a long time due to the lawyers. So you can now, through Smith & Wesson, acquire, I can't say reproduction, it's really a reissue, if even that, or just a historically revisited version of their iconic revolver right here. Now, Smith & Wesson's had a history of doing this. In the year 2000, they brought back briefly their iconic Schofield revolver, the top break, of course. And it's a very historically accurate re-impression of that original gun. However, they did things to modernize it. For example, it's got a transfer bar safety. The firing pin is not on the hammer. As well as I understand it, almost none of the parts are actually interchangeable with the original Schofields. But for all intents and purposes, it is functionally identical to a Schofield in how it performs and what it does and the cartridge it's chambered in, with the notable exception of a transfer bar safety. This is from their performance center, and they are now actually are collectibles. However, it's a little different when it comes to the Model 10 or this 38 Hand Ejector model of 1889 because they never stopped making these. They've just decided to continue making them or provide them to the commercial market in their historical configuration. Now, this of course is a modern swing-out cylinder revolver, but it's not the first successful production swing-out cylinder revolver. It's sort of the third. In 1889, Colt came out with their model of 1889, which was a swing-out cylinder revolver. First one to the production market. There were some other things before that, of course. But when it comes to production, go to the gun store, go buy one. Colt did that in 1889. But it wasn't long after for Smith & Wesson to compete with them, coming out with the model of 1896, the Hand Ejector Model 1, which was chambered in 32 Smith & Wesson. And then just 3 years after that, they came out with the model of 1889 of the Hand Ejector model, however now chambered in the venerable 38 Special. That's right, the 38 Special cartridge goes all the way back to the 1880s, 1888, 1889. When it first was issued, it came out, it had 21 grains of black powder with a 158 grain lead bullet, which meant about 800 feet per second. You still, if you were to buy 38 Special today at the store, if you get it with the 158 grain lead round nose projectile or flat nose projectile, while it will be using smokeless powder, standard 38 Special still is around 800 feet per second. We'll get into more of that later. But the 38 Special was an answer to a problem. The guns before this were chambered in 38 Long Colt, which was less powerful than 38 Special and was considered insufficient for combatives. In fact, the military specifically complained about the lack of stopping power in the 38 Long Colt. So Smith & Wesson designed this cartridge, the 38 Special, and wanted to help address that problem by adding some mass to the bullet, adding some extra length to the cartridge case, which thus increased the volume and thus more black powder, thus increasing the velocity, thus increasing the stopping power from 38 Long Colt to 38 Special. Now, by modern standards, a lot of us don't think of 38 Special as a particularly powerful cartridge, but this was a response to the 38 Long Colt and definitely has been sufficient. Many people have been on the wrong end of 38 Special, and it does do the job. Are there better options now? Sure. However, you'll still find this cartridge frequently being used for self-defense, more often than not chambered in a J-frame revolver, probably also manufactured by Smith & Wesson. So they really hit it out of the park, not only with this, the 1889 38 Hand Ejector model, but also with the cartridge in 38 Special. Now, this was such a popular and successful revolver design that over 6 million of these have been manufactured. In fact, it probably is the most manufactured pistol of all time. It saw adoption by not only the military, but significant amounts of police. If you were on a police force from the 1920s to the 1990s, there's a good chance this was your sidearm. So you might ask yourself, why not just go buy one of those old used ones? And that's certainly a possibility. However, Smith & Wesson has brought this back to the market in its historical incarnation with the square butt, pencil barrel, half moon, front sight, no safety lock. But they've improved the metallurgy with it, and it is now capable of taking 38 plus P, as well as if you decided you wanted to shoot this for fun or for competition, you are not trying to destroy a historical firearm or some clapped out thing that some cop carried around for 30 years and never took care of. So you can buy one of these new, have a stronger, better gun that can handle better pressures, modern 38 plus P ammunition, and have a good time. Nothing's really changed on this gun in terms of its handling. It is still a DA and single action gun. However, the lawyers did get to us on this, and of course it does have a transfer bar safety. Now, just like the Schofield having a transfer bar safety, I don't think that's the worst idea, to be honest with you. If you're going to bring out a historical firearm in a modern incarnation, legal issues aside, this truly is a better option than a firing pin embedded in the nose of the hammer. It makes it safe to carry with all chambers loaded. You don't have to worry about being dropped. And as a result, it really does not affect the function of the gun in any way. It just improves the safety of the gun. So this is in every way a historical Model 10, but just safer to use than it would have been if you had a historical one that did not have that feature. Now, Smith & Wesson went to the model number system in 1957. Before 1957, this gun was known as the 38 Hand Ejector model of 1889, also frequently referred to as the military and police model. But in 57, they went to the model number system, this was given the designation of Model 10, and most people are going to refer to and know of this as the Model 10. This gun was used so heavily by both police and military and the other side of the law that almost every film or historical account you'll find of that time, whether it was prohibition or otherwise, one of these is somewhere in that conversation. Also in movies, you'll see this in The Untouchables, historically correct gun for that movie. You'll see this in actually in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is in the very first scene of that film when there's a gunfight in the Chinese restaurant. Iconic, beautiful, easy to handle, accurate to shoot, and as a result, extremely popular. Smith & Wesson's been on the cutting edge of really high-end quality revolvers for a long time. Even though Colt came out with a swing-out cylinder before them, they perfected it. And before that, of course, you had these break-open actions such as this Schofield, which is very quick to load and unload. However, this top break system isn't very strong. You can do this now with modern Schofields and 38 Special, but there was a reason the top strip design sort of went the way of the dodo bird. It just isn't strong enough. So you bring out a gun that has a top strap, such as this now Model 10 or the 1889 Hand Ejector model, and you have all the rigidity of a solid frame, but the same speed of loading and unloading as you did with that Schofield, or at least darn close to it. That's what made this a very popular gun. On top of that, as I mentioned earlier, the way the gun locks up for the swing-out cylinder made it a stronger, more reliable, and durable gun than the Colt alternative. I did say that it has a transfer bar safety. That makes sense for modern sensibilities and safety, but it does not affect the handling of the gun. And as you can see, the bluing, everything about this is top-notch. When I got this, I thought this came from their Performance Center. Their reissue Schofield came from the Performance Center, and as a result, it has this gorgeous blue. But if you'll notice, they really are both just as nicely finished. However, this is just a production gun. You can go pick this up for a reasonable price, and it is not something special and Gucci from the Performance Center. The single action trigger is superb, and the DA isn't bad either. In fact, this is quite light. It's not even that long a length of pull, as you can see. Really, really something. Now, of course, the sights are not adjustable, so you're going to have to learn your gun to shoot to where it tends to be point of aim. However, I found mine to be directly to point of aim. So, Smith & Wesson, you knocked it out of the park with this. Everything about this is top-notch and beautiful. Now, 1960s or so, you start seeing the use of modern speed loaders. There were experiments with speed loaders before this, but really, you had moon clips and stuff like that for the military in World War I. That's when you start seeing, when you start seeing cops and others using speed loaders like this, competition birthed this, I believe, but it became a commonplace thing to see this on a police officer's belt. And of course, huge advantage in this regard. You just line them up, turn the knob, and boom, you're fully loaded. And of course, with a swing out cylinder to unload is very easy, and you're ready to go. Unless you're talking about semi-automatic guns like the 1911, this type of reloading system and such was still reasonably capable of keeping up with many semi-automatic guns at the time that had maybe 1 or 2 extra rounds of capacity. But if you got good with this, this was no slouch. When I saw this announced at SHOT Show of January of 2025, I knew I needed this, but I'm the guy that needs a thing like this. What's the application for a revolver like this in the modern world? Fun, historical interest, competition, and I guess in a pinch, self-defense. However, I can't see recommending this for practical applications anymore in the modern world. They have reissued a bunch of their J-frames too. That would be very cool if you're interested in that. But bringing back this very historical firearm in a improved, stronger frame, plus be capable, that isn't some beat up, trashed, abused police pistol, is really cool. You get to see it in its original historical quality with a blue that is, literally, it looks like art. These guns are beautiful. I don't know how to put it any other way. And if you want to join us at a brutality match in the Roaring 20s division, this just might be your game. Or if you're just interested in historical revolvers and you want to move a little bit past the Old West into the New West, well, this one might be your game. All I can say is everything about this gun was top notch. It worked perfectly. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. Its quality impressed me out of the box in a way that surprised me. As I said, I thought this might have been a performance center gun, and it wasn't. It's just a production gun. And, well, Smith Wesson, you did a great job. This thing's awesome. If you all like this kind of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have no sponsors, no overlords. Smith & Wesson did not send me this gun. In fact, I purchased this with my own money so that I could shoot it in brutality matches and Roaring 20s, but also give you a review of it. And I'm happy that I can actually give you a very positive review of it. It would have been a real disappointment if they'd messed this one up. But what that means is we get no money from YouTube, no money from Smith & Wesson, but really only you, the viewer, keep this channel alive. It's the NPR model, patreon.com/InRangeTV. Every dollar counts. 10 of you deciding to help join up the Patreon, you can be on our Discord, be part of the community, get early access and discounted rates to our brutality matches and some other cool perks, and help support this alternative voice in the firearms space. If you already are one of those people, thank you so much for making this possible. If you can consider it, please do. Patreon.com/InRangeTV. And if you can't, I understand money is not infinite. Subscribe, click the bell, may not work. But more importantly, if you like this video and this content or this kind of approach to the topic, share it with your friends, because the algorithm won't do it for us, but you can. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more. So they say the banks are too big to fail, but in the 1930s, some people proved otherwise.